Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to View with Mike G, the show of life, the show of mezcal, the show of Las Almas Rotas, Colorado, and so much more. In October of 2020, I sat down with a fine gentleman named Reed Spear, the proprietor and creator of Cuentacuentos Mezcal, a beautiful mezcal from different areas of Oaxaca, and actually tried some samples from Guerrero too, which were quite spectacular. But lo and behold, I talked to him this week. He is going to be back at Las Almas Rotas this upcoming week or the week after, either way. And so what better time to circle back and finally announce the launch in Texas of his beautiful Cuentacuentos Mezcales. I'm very, very excited. So I hope you guys enjoy this great chat, pre-COVID, in person, that deep, sexy voice with Reed Spear. I don't know who's playing drums. I really don't. But
She said she took one look at Chris, striking visage he presents. She said, "Are you guys a band?"
Right?
We said, "No. Well, we're here on a junket, doing mezcal tastings."
Yeah.
She said, "You guys." I wanted to go to that. Was that last night?
Oh,
Damn
no
it.
way.
Oh, she knew.
She totally knew.
Yeah.
What was the cafe close to downtown? Or?
Yeah, it was close in Deep Ellum.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's just only a few minutes away from Las Almas Rotas where we did that event. And
Dude, you told me it was pretty much sold out too.
it was
Packed house, right?
It was packed house. So we ran out to the truck and poured her and her coworker a couple ounces of the Tepestate.
Oh man,
They were thrilled.
how does it feel to? Because this is the thing, right? So the way that we kind of met was through Shad, the owner of Las Almas Rotas, and he was so excited about these mezcals because he told me straight up, he's like, I was kind of reticent to kind of talk to this guy from Colorado.
Sure.
Everybody's got a goddamn mezcal and stuff, but apparently how connected you were to it and how beautiful the juice itself was, he was preaching it to me. He's like, dude, you gotta try this. So this all comes full circle. You happen to be in Texas. You get a sold out house. You've been to. This is the first time to Austin, right?
First time to Austin, yeah.
But you've been to Dallas before?
In the 90s,
Yeah.
but just briefly in and out, so.
Dude, how does it feel? The fact that no one knew who you were. Now they know who you are. They know the mezcal. And you had a packed house at the premier mezcaleria in Dallas.
Well, I got to tip my hat to Shad for
Yeah.
that, right? Las Almas Rotas is a big draw, so
Yeah.
having them behind it. And this is the thing that's impressed me so much about this whole journey is that I talk to people about this. I offer them some tastes, and they're drawn in. My friends are with me because they're just intensely interested in this,
Yeah.
right? And they're very supportive, but they're just fascinated by it, and that seems to be the way it's been going. Everybody that I talk to about this wants to do something to help,
Yeah.
and I'm not even asking them for help. It's amazing. It's completely new to me after almost 50 years on the planet and
Yeah.
been doing entrepreneurial activity the whole time, to have so many people just kind of come in around it and want to pitch in. It's wonderful.
So obviously you've been warmly welcomed here to Texas, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the larger community, which we have a lot of similar mutual friends and stuff, it seems like they've embraced you as well, and that this community, is really communal, not to be redundant, but how do you feel about the community at large and how you've kind of been embraced by it?
Well, I think everybody understands that mezcal is just this new sector.
Yeah.
It's a special sector. It's unlike any other spirit in the world. And in that, it just cuts through all strata of culture in Mexico. It's the only spirit that really expresses terroir.
Yeah.
And that when you elevate the awareness of mezcal, everybody does better.
Yeah.
There's
Rising tide kind of thing.
Yeah, rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
So everyone seems to just completely get that, and it's wonderful.
And it's different because, there are some, Chad calls them nightclub mezcals.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great.
It's a
way to
great
talk
term.
about. Yeah. And I was like, dude, it's fucking brilliant. I'm gonna steal it. But I always credit him for saying that. But in this, I said it's like blood in the water, right? So mezcal is this emerging segment, like you said, which captures terroir. In terms of spirits, unlike anything else. I mean, you talk about eau de vie kind of do that, but whiskeys don't do that, right?
Right.
So, given that people are rushing to probably make $1, do you find that the conversations are harder for you because the people that you're talking to are like, dude, I just talked to this other guy with a mezcal brand. Are people becoming jaded, or you find that?
Yeah, no, there is definitely that aspect to it, and that's okay. I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little bit more patient, and it's tough to say no to somebody when they're in front of you.
Yeah.
And so if they'll give you a minute to talk, they can then let down their guard a little bit and understand that, I spent, I don't know, 3.5 years beating the bushes with Carlos Mendez, looking for these expressions, learning about mezcals with him, polishing off my Spanish. And I could have launched 3 years ago with something ready to roll.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the way I wanted to go about it.
Yeah, and that's actually an interesting story last night, is that I got the sense that from an economic perspective, I think it was the state of Oaxaca, they're like, hey, these are already bottled, they're ready to go. You're a dude in the States. How about you bring them in? Are they really that eager to bring mezcal of any kind?
They really are.
Yeah.
They really are. They want to sell their product. I mean, this is they see this as a golden opportunity. I'm coming out of the cannabis industry, right? And so that we call it the green rush, and they're experiencing a similar uptick in interest in mezcal now.
Yeah.
It's kind of out of the back of the woods. The stigma of it being moonshine for a lower caste is gone. And, the U.S. interest in products that have a social component, that have that transparency, that celebrate the hand of the maker, it just checks all the boxes. And they really see this as their opportunity to get out in front of, probably for the first time in generations, the opportunity to move up.
Yeah. Kind of improve the cachet and just the general brand recognition of mezcal in a sense.
And I think, and they are deservedly proud of what they're doing, which is great.
Yeah. What's funny is when, again, kind of referring back to one of these books I was reading, when they're talking about Oaxaca and the aughts, or even the late 90s, there were because there were apparently a lot of people traveling into Oaxaca from other parts of Mexico, and there wasn't really good mezcal. And even the first time I went, like 5-6 years ago, in the square, is just rubbish mezcal. But then I just went again in November. The mezcal selections now, just in retail, are some of the best marks I've seen. There's stuff that's like, so it's obviously changing. People are embracing it. But I still like the concept that you could probably just go to the consulate. Is that probably the right group? And be like, I want to start a brand, and they've got multiple ones prepackaged for you?
Well, no, it was a little bit more circuitous than that. I went to the consulate in Denver, and they said, and I sat down and had a coffee with the consul, and he put me in touch with Pro Mexico Houston.
Okay.
And Pro Mexico Houston put me in touch with Pro Mexico Oaxaca. There I got to know Thalia Filogo Reyes and Lisbeth, her friend Lisbeth. I believe her last name's Santiago. Sorry, Lisbeth, if you're listening to this. Really wonderful, super people, and they were putting on these I can't remember what they named the events, but it was basically, let's introduce American importers to mezcaleros with brands that are ready to go or ready to do private label, do white label. And I went down to 2 of those, and they were actually subsidizing some of the airfare, which I thought was incredibly generous.
That's great, yeah.
And but after the second one, I Thalia said, what do you think of these events? I said, they're fantastic. I mean, they're holding them in the Ethnobotanical Garden, right? Just gorgeous. All pulled out all the stops. Just you couldn't ask for better events. And I said, well, this is great, but it's not the thing that I'm really looking for. I'm looking for an opportunity to get out in the weeds and find some people who don't have opportunity, who want to build a family business, and work with them.
How does she feel about that?
She conferred with Lisbeth, and they put me in touch with their good friend Carlos Mendez.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's how that got started.
What do you know when you think of many ways to run a business, many ways to birth one too, right? You could just go and import stuff. You could be taking the easy road, but for you, was this some sense of wanting to explore and understand the process and kind of discover? I mean, obviously these elements you're kind of describing, but did you know all along that was the way that you wanted to have your brand emerge? Is kind of organically grown from hand picking? Yeah,
it emerged from a discussion I had with a business partner of mine who we've been doing attempting to do some mergers and acquisition work in the cannabis industry, and we had this discussion, back in like late 2014, early 2015. It was, what are you gonna do when you hit your number, right?
Oh, like in terms of revenue, or
like when you have enough money to do what you want to do.
Nice.
And he said, I love old people. They get ignored. I do lots of handyman work around the neighborhood. I would do more of that.
Yeah.
What would you do? And I said, well, I guess I would want to do small business development in rural Latin America. I just finished traveling around the world and fell in love with Mexico and really all of Latin America. And so then it just like, next sentence, like, what are we waiting for? Why do we have to hit our number before we do this? Why can't this be the thing that we do? So, back up to 2012, bad year. I had a breakup, sold a business, sold my house.
Was selling the business a good thing though? It seems like it would be, but
was that yeah, it was. I mean, it was difficult. That the company wanted to be very, very successful. But I was tired from it. I was happy to be out of that. But I wanted to do something that was not about the green rush, right? It wasn't about chasing dollars. I wanted there to be meaning in what I was doing, which to me meant getting to know the people behind the product and hopefully elevating someone else's life while I do the same thing with my own.
Did you find that this is you're a philosophy major, so I can ask this in an existential kind of way, right?
Right.
Doing that work, which maybe seems like it's aimless and that it's not very fulfilling, does that put you in some kind of crisis, like creatively and like maybe spiritually, where like I have to do something else?
Yeah, like I'm going to want to over romanticize what I'm doing here with mezcal. I mean, obviously everyone needs to make money, right?
Yeah.
And money enables you to do things that are meaningful. But I guess the insight was, do they have to be separate?
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people who are in the professions understand this very well. Anyone who's in the medical field, they want to. It's meaningful work. You're helping somebody at a time when they really need it, and you're also doing well for yourself. So I just think that insight's really valuable for anybody who, is going to obviously be spending a lot of time doing what they want to do.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's good, and I think it's one of the spirits are maybe one of the places where those two things intersect, where you can actually affect people, not on the consumer side, but the people that are producing, but you also can, it's not necessarily lucrative, but you can at least sustain a business, which then helps you, which then helps the producers, and that brings education, it brings sustainability and all these other kinds of things. So
absolutely. I mean, the trick here really is to get paid for playing the game, doing the thing that you want to do. And if you can figure that out, then work's a joy.
Yeah. So let's go. We're trying this. Man, this quiche is so good too. This is one of the finest I've had. Because again, it's that sparkly thing. The fact you can use that really musky plant with very low sugar inside of it and craft something that's so beautiful.
I remember the first time seeing the Karwinskis stacked up, and I thought, this is firewood.
This can't possibly taste good.
Yeah, this is agave.
Yeah. Is this one of the ones that you said you kind of felt had a more feminine flavor?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. If you could articulate that, what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, and counterpoint to the men producing it, right? These guys are They're tough. They have been working with their hands their whole lives. And as I said, you shake their hand, it's like someone stuffed a leather glove full of rocks.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
But Serafine he's just a gentle, sweet guy, full of hugs, smiles, soft-spoken, and as tough as he is, like he produces these just elegant spirits, every single one of them, and they all have that. I don't know. We have a rule when I do tastings with my friends that we don't use the words smoky, smooth, or interesting.
Cool.
They're off the table, right?
Sure, yeah.
So, but he's got this. You can tell it was him.
Yeah.
You can tell that he's
got
the guy.
thumbprint on it.
Yeah.
I imagine that it comes in the finish, because that's what kind of really is remarkable about this one.
Right.
Where you kind of taste like, oh yeah, it's quiche. It's
Right,
good. It's nice.
You drink his Tepestate next to this other outstanding Tepestate I have here from Alejandrina, and it's just softer.
Yeah.
The flavors are more subdued, but obviously delicious. Not.
Maybe you and I can write a blog. We could have a podcast with this available technology for us to kind of flex our creative muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But is mezcal kind of the outlet for these guys to share their creative passion?
Yeah, unquestionably. I mean, I think obviously primarily they're feeding their families.
Yeah.
Right. But if you want to do that, your product has to be something people want.
Right.
And then if you're going to begin, again, like I was saying, if you're going to be doing this all day, every day, you better love it. So yeah, and you watch him work. I think this is true with any good mezcalero. They're meticulous. They're making sure every last bit of the macerated agave gets swept up out of the tahona and put into the tina, and then they're patting the tina down nice and even all the way around.
Yeah.
Some of them put the little cross in the center and just keep an eye on things. Everything's the best mezcaleros are really neat.
Yeah.
And
best kitchens in the world too, right?
Yeah.
Always super neat.
Yeah. That's right.
And I think it's very analogous in terms of creating this thing that's consistent too. There's some variability, obviously, from varietal to varietal and from time of year to time of year, But so this is the thing, I was talking, we were mentioning this before I started recording. You're with a motley crew of gents on the road here.
Yeah. Yep.
Totally different backgrounds. Some film, some brewing. Lives in Montana, lives in New York. But they all had this just unwavering dedication to your vision on this thing. And they wanted to play whatever part they could to help. And the thing that was common between like the multiple guys, because we're at Las Perlas last night, just kind of drinking some mezcal, some sotol. And they're like, yeah, he learned how to do all this stuff. Like, so you learned how to taste. They said, we don't know what the equivalent of a mezcal sommelier is, but we kind of feel like Reed's got that characteristic. Do you know that, like, I know that being too self-aware kind of messes up my mind sometimes.
Right.
But these guys, you realize like how much they support you in this project, how excited they are for you.
Yeah, I'm flattered to hear it. I love those guys.
Yeah.
With all my heart, they're wonderful friends. So, I'm flattered.
Yeah, it's really, really kind of touching, to be honest. And again, they kind of lend me some insight as to the type of guy you are. But so let's go back, because from my understanding of Pittsburgh, sensible people come from fucking Pittsburgh. Working class, like smart, solid, salt of the earth.
Blue collar all the way.
Blue collar all the way. So you grow up in because there's this element of nutrition and before you go into the green rush, as you say, and then probably some things in between. But so what are you doing as a kid in Pittsburgh? Are you skateboarding? Are you doing sports? Are you riding?
Bicycling was my thing.
Cycling stuff.
I loved bicycling. I started into that in high school, and that's followed me all the way to the present day. Mm. It's a meditative thing.
Sure.
It's a good way to stay fit. But Pittsburgh was a wonderful place to grow up, really. I didn't realize it at the time. The weather's terrible through the winters. And finally after I moved, they started to realize they've got 3 rivers running through town, and it doesn't have to all be brown fields in front of it. So that's getting redeveloped, and it was I don't know, one of the food magazines, like City of the Year for restaurants in 2015. They've got a symphony orchestra, ballet. They have all the great sports teams. There's something like a crazy number of universities in town, so the people are really smart as well.
Diverse group.
Super diverse. But still, the thing that defines Pittsburgh are the ethnic neighborhoods, right? So built up by Eastern Europeans, and still have, Squirrel Hill, a Jewish neighborhood, Polish Hill, obviously Polish, Germantown, you have Bloomfield, which is Italian, and down in the Strip District, you've got Asian communities, and so the food's just like no other city, and people don't realize this, but oh my God, it's one of the best places to eat.
It's what I've heard, and so my friend just moved there, and she's like, "There's pierogies everywhere."
Oh my God!
I'm like, what?
The most pierogi eating city in America.
That's crazy, man. I had no idea. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah.
But here's, it also seemed like, despite what is this kind of burgeoning cultural melting pot, and maybe that's not the right word, but there is lots of different cultures and stuff. But still, like, somehow, is it pretty insular still? It doesn't feel real connected?
Definitely. And that's why I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
I went back to Pittsburgh for graduate school, and I was living in Mount Washington, which overlooks the city, and I was meeting people who were bragging that they'd never left their neighborhood.
Oh wow,
that's
source of pride.
That's insular. Yeah. So it's got the lowest attrition rate of any city in the U.S., or at least it did then. I don't know where current status is. So people who are born there tend to really stay there.
Man.
And of course, it's also got that Pittsburgh accent, right? The famous ugly accent, but it cracks me up.
Were you able to shake it?
Yeah, no, I was prohibited from growing up. My parents wouldn't let me speak Pittsburghese.
No,
but even I walked off to college still dropping the to be in front of verbs, So my philosophy professors shook the rest of it out.
Well, so given your ambitious and kind of entrepreneurial nature, I always feel like that comes from somewhere necessarily. So were your folks kind of entrepreneurial as well?
Yeah, my father was an entrepreneur. His father was an entrepreneur. He left Indiana to move to Pittsburgh. My grandfather grew up as a farmer, moved to Pittsburgh, worked his way up to the automobile industry until he was able to afford his own car dealership.
Oh, cool.
My father and my uncle joined him in that. And so I grew up with my grandfather asking me, who's going to pay you for being alive today?
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's a lot of, looking back on it, it's a lot of pressure.
I was going to say,
but who paid you for getting up,
dude? Yeah, that's
but
one way to value.
More than that, I think just I really value my time.
Yeah,
And so I want to be doing something that I designed. It's not that I object to working for other people. I don't. I think if a project's worth doing, it's worth doing no matter who came up with the idea.
Sure.
It's just that I've always felt the need to have my freedom to put things down and go when I wanted to.
So does that somehow, was there an expectation that college is the best way or the most efficient way to get to the end state of running a business, or was that kind of more your thing?
Well, no, my father's generation was the first to go through college, and it was always just assumed. It was one of those things where you grow up in it, and it's expected, and it's never even questioned.
No. So what about master's work? Was that also an expectation, or?
Yeah, I think all but one of us in my immediate family has some graduate work.
No kidding.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It is good, right?
Yeah, because honestly, my folks, they went to a little bit of college.
Yeah, my father did microbiology. My brother did econ.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. So did you enter? Because I understand there's this nutritional aspect of what the family was kind of doing. Did you come into that business? Was that your business? Had it been something that existed a while?
This was something that, this was back. You got to go back to when the internet was just getting started, right?
Like 96.
Yeah. Started it in 90.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, 96, 97. Yeah. And man, I was just completely fascinated, taken by the whole
Yeah.
internet phenomenon, right? And my brother Mark was coming out of Stanford, so he was really close to the epicenter of it, right?
Sure.
And I had this abiding interest in plant medicine since high school, and so we started to get into these dietary supplements, and one thing led to another, and we decided to start selling them on the web, and 7 years later, we sold that company.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the heyday of it. Maybe one of the first doing nutritional supplements online.
Yeah, we were. There was another company. I can't recall the name off the top of my head. It was one of the scions of the Pepsi Cola family. I think started it. Then they had to go for a second round of funding, and we just were this little tiny like bootstrap outfit that I think we did pretty well.
And so you ended up selling that and transitioning into something else?
Sold that, did some traveling.
So pretty young guy at that point?
I was 30, just turned 34. So it was November of 2004, sold that company.
Yeah.
Decided to see what the world looked like. And
how did it look?
It was incredible.
Had you traveled much before?
No, around the U.S. I grew up in a family where, that was the diversity of experience was prized. So took trips all around the U.S., regional places in the U.S. every summer. Here's what New England looks like. Here's what the South looks like. Here's the West, and that's how I ended up moving to Colorado. I just completely fell in love with the wide open spaces, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I traveled around the world, and I wasn't really all that interested in Mexico, but it was
not at that time anyway.
At that time, it was close. So it was the 34th country that I visited, and I went to Oaxaca again.
34. That's an interesting coincidence, actually. 34 years old.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, although, yeah. So I got to Mexico, Oaxaca, because I had that interest in medicinal plants, and it's just this hotbed for plant diversity in the world. Like incredible number of species of ferns. Of course, it's where Gordon Wasson discovered the psilocybin mushroom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You sure?
That's in Oaxaca?
That's in Oaxaca. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Huautla de Jimenez. The Salvia divinorum's down there. There's just unbelievable diversity of plant life. So I went just to go there and just to see what was going on.
Yeah.
And I just ducked into this room. It was not bigger than this room we're sitting in now. It's just a little tiny thing that's La Mezclarita. And it's up on the Alcala, just north of the Templo Santo Domingo now, and they've expanded. They're in another room next door, which used to be a restaurant, and they've got the terraza upstairs, and they've expanded their offerings. But I had my first good mezcal, and even then, I think a good bottle was like $50.
Yeah.
But we threw down for it, and I was traveling with a girlfriend at the time, and from there we went to San Cristobal in Chiapas, and we just sat up one night in front of a fireplace, drank that whole damn bottle, and woke up the next morning feeling fine. Yeah. I was like, what is this? Why am I not?
Because what do you drink in Pittsburgh? They have like a coffee brandy or something, right?
Yeah, the Boilermakers with Iron City or Icy Light, and a cheap whiskey. Yeah,
doesn't feel the same.
No, not at all, not at all. So I was blown away. Do you feel bad? Is it just me? What's going on here?
Have I developed some kind of weird tolerance?
Yeah, some kind of superpower, right? Yeah. And so that was my first introduction to a good mezcal.
Yeah.
And then, fast forward, and rest is history.
How was it getting into something? So the other businesses I guess you can talk about the green rush as well, and that's kind of this movement in the industry, lots of people getting involved. So it's probably going to be lucrative, right? But mezcal probably could be. But are you scared about the prospects of saturation in the market, not getting what I consider some of the most exceptional mezcal I've had, getting that to the lips? Do you find that those challenges kind of keep you up at night?
No, they don't. I think that you just got to trust in this product, and and I consumed a lot of mezcal over the last 4 years, and these are exceptional. They are, and the people who have them know it. They want them. This is the thing, like, right? People ask me, what do you think about mezcal's sustainability? Can it survive the boom?
Yeah.
I put the question right back to the consumer. What do you want? What do you want to be drinking?
Yeah.
Do you want diffuser mezcal? Because we tried that, it didn't work.
Yeah, right.
It's not good to drink. Do you want an ancestral category, or do you want an artisanal category that's pushing the line between artisanal and industrial? Where do you want to consume this? It's up to you.
Do you think they know? This is the thing I've kind of understood, is that mezcal is like that band everybody's talking about. You know what? I'll use an exact fucking example. Arcade Fire, when they came out, right? Everybody was talking about them. I was so friggin' tired of hearing about fucking Arcade Fire selling out emos downtown and stuff. Like, oh, did you go to the show? No, I didn't go to the show. In a way, like, because it was so popular, I kind of rejected it a little bit.
Right.
But now that's kind of tapered off a little bit for Arcade Fire for sure after we won the Grammy, but more so for mezcal. It's kind of tapered off just a little bit, right? Vice has done writing about it. Now it's about Sotol, the new kind of media darling and stuff. But people are still talking about mezcal. But the thing is, with consumers, they just know mezcal. Well, what is it? I don't know, but mezcal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's it composed of? I don't really know. Where's it made? Mexico. Cool. Where? I don't know. So there's this big educational gap to bring people in a soft, light way to where they can understand the category more. Mm-hmm. And do you find like that's something, because we're dealing with industry all the time, and they're very self-initiated. They understand mezcal. They research it. They're like, hold your feet to the fire about where it comes from and stuff. But there's still a lot of work to be done on the consumer side too, don't you think?
Yeah, there is absolutely. And for every journalist who calls mezcal tequila's smoky cousin, I just want to poke him in the eye. I mean, just knock it off. First of all, if it's really that smoky, then the fire didn't die down long enough in the Orno, and someone made a mistake. Right. And cousin, no.
They're peers, man.
Yeah. Tequila's a type of mezcal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so there's a group of people, probably the majority, that are never going to bother to learn about it.
Right.
That's fine. They've got other priorities, or they can drink vodka. But for people who encounter and start to appreciate a good mezcal, they'll get drawn in. And that's who this product's for, right? I'm not playing to the masses here. I don't, that doesn't really bother me. I think there's enough people who really love mezcal to support the good brands. I do. If you just keep an eye on the tequila shelf around the country, you can see it sort of shrinking as mezcal grows, right?
Right.
I mean, why are you drinking, you've got this whole prism of colors, right? And why are you drinking just out of this one bandwidth?
Yeah.
Everything, like all this tequila on the shelf, and you're missing out all these other agaves.
Dude,
right?
It's monochromatic.
It is
black and white, versus
it makes no sense.
And I think that there's always there has to be that one moment. Either it's a person or it's a place or a time in one's life, and then you finally connect with mezcal. As many say, mezcal finds you in a sense. And you're drinking that bottle in Chiapas and kind of realize what everything kind of came together. So one of the things I think, so let's use this, normally, because I've talked to lots of people and I always want to talk about their lives, but there's some cool new designations for mezcal that kind of came out with the ancestral and artisanal. So you have a tobala that's made in ancestral style.
Correct.
So let's sip that one. You kind of talk me through the process for folks, because the consumers that hear this, I want them to kind of understand there is actually different shades of production with mezcal.
Yeah, absolutely there is.
Yeah, and this is one I didn't get to try last night too, so I'm selfishly.
Oh, you didn't try this last night? You'll like this. I don't know if you've had many mezcals out of Ehutla, but they've got this distinct terroir, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when you've had a mezcal from Ehutla, like, you can just start to pick them out of a lineup, right? I think this has a similar flavor to those mezcals.
Yeah, so initially, man, it's like there's on some of the Isla scotches that are more coastal. I guess Isla is coastal, but like Lacheg, leche, depending on how you describe it. There's this kind of almost sulfurous fishiness that this reminds me of, but not fish. It's more like a cured venison or something, right? Like kind of a super protein piece just on the nose. I haven't tried it yet.
Right.
Which is super cool because where the hell are you going to get that note in tequila?
Right.
There's no possible way.
Right.
So this is from Ihutla, you said?
No, this is actually from El Lazo, which is up the mountain another hour out of Sola de Vega.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, just way hidden away.
How did you find this place, given it is so hidden? Was it something Carlos and you guys?
Yeah. I owe so much to Carlos because he's become just a great friend. He's a super human being. And, just word of mouth, really. Talking to people, who do you know? Here's what we're looking for. Here's a guy who wants to start a line, but he doesn't want anything to go over 500 liters, right?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
So who's doing small stuff? And so we found the Cruz family, right? Angel Cruz Robles and his grandfather, Angel Cruz Calvo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whose mezcal this is, the elder.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, shit.
Don Calvo, 83 years old.
Dude.
Mezcal before every meal, still swinging a mazo and canoa.
Yeah.
Just out there.
Playboy, international playboy.
Hand macerating this stuff.
Dude.
Just picture of health. And clay distillation. And a really cool thing, like I guess the really romantic piece of this is they draw their water from a sacred source. And I mean that literally.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like maybe 10 to 30 people visit this spring every day for religious reasons. And there's a temple next to it, little shrine, a little temple next to it. And then if it's a big enough group, they'll bring up, one of those banner posters, and they'll hang that up to indicate that they were there and they did their pilgrimage to the source. And then there's a little cottage industry. They're selling containers to collect the water.
I saw those super colorful little.
Yeah.
Because they're like the same containers you do for mezcal, but they're all colored.
Yeah, they're all colored.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so you got Angel Cruz, both of them Angel Cruz, drawing water from a sacred source, and it's like, are you kidding me? Who's looking for the camera? Like, who's putting me on here?
Yeah. Some really special place. It's kind of, because it's so different than it is in the States, where very little is sacred. It's kind of like, it's a little refreshing. So this guy, man, this is super good. This is lovely because the way that it smells, if it was a person, you'd think they're a little standoffish because it smells a little stiff, right? But still in its own kind of austere, rugged way. But then you taste it, and you finally get to shake this guy's hand and talk about life, and you find how animated and how humorous they are.
Right.
And then this fruitiness comes out. And with the clay itself, sometimes, rather, how do you feel about, besides, this is exceptional. This doesn't taste much like many clay mezcals I've had. For you, what is typically some stuff you get and pull out of the flavor of clay distilled mezcals?
Well, you help, depending on how new the oil is, you can taste the clay to varying degrees, right? Yeah. These are older pots. Clearly, you're not getting that wet cement flavor that you sometimes get from a new pot that's like overwhelming clay. And so for that reason, I think you just a note on production. You got to have a lot of pots going, because if you're going to put the product together and you break a pot and you put a new one in there, you can't go replacing all of them at the same time.
That's a great point. And it would be inconsistent flavor, right? Because if one's new and has that kind of, wet cement's a great word for it. I think if it's like licking chalk.
Yeah, it's chalky.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great flavor for some people, but I never realized that, I never took into consideration that the age of the actual clay pot itself really has a lot to do with it.
I'm sure it makes a huge difference, and even give the mezcal a tint.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's absolutely
make it
right.
just a tiniest bit yellow if it's new. So, you gotta. These are all considerations that go into it, right?
Yeah.
They're just cruising along, trying to do the best they can and sell product to keep their families going. But so the elder's got his palenque. It's just a little bit down the slope from the younger, and he's just such a great guy. Angel's the younger, right? The younger, Robles, he's gotten into the science of this thing, right? So when you go to visit him, he's got his column out, and he's testing the specific gravity of his tepache, and or he's experimenting with storing in stainless versus plastic, and he's discovered through his testing that they don't need to cut the puntas.
They don't need to cut them?
They don't cut the puntas in this or any of their mezcals.
Wait, so it's the ferment is so clean that they just kind of collect all of it, basically?
He's got it dialed.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, they do cut the tails, of course, but
sure.
Yeah, but no, they don't cut the puntas.
Dude, because as we have at least been led to believe, all that methanol,
right?
It's like right there and condensed,
and yet it's testing well below the 300.
That's crazy.
Limit set by the CRM. So
man. That's
he's just
cool.
like, we don't need to. Just tested it. It's fine.
That's bound to give them better results, too, better output rather.
Yeah, better yield.
Yeah,
and taste the product. I mean, there's flavor in the puntas, right?
Oh, dude, it's one of the best things.
Right. That's what's tragic about having to cut them.
Yeah, it's like the burn ends on brisket.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the best.
Because
we had some of your brisket yesterday, and
just
pretty much put us all into a meat coma.
Did you? Yeah, when I met with you guys, I'm like, either they just drank all day or they ate brisket.
We ate brisket.
It was definitely meat coma kind of face.
Yeah.
But it's nice because you're like, at least I'm happy. I might be tired, but I'm happy. So how do you feel about them, the Comercom, I think that's the right entity, them actually designating Ancestral as a particular type of mezcal? Do you think it's helpful, hurtful, nothing at all?
Yeah, this is such a thorny issue, right? The whole involvement of the CRM, the appropriation of the word mezcal, and then this has been called mezcal forever, right? But now you have to go through this process if you want to call it mezcal. And I get it, what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to replicate the success of tequila, but at the same time try to differentiate it, try to avoid the industrialization that took place in tequila.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I'm not sure they drew the lines in the right places, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I like the industrial line. Like if you're using a diffuser, then I wish they wouldn't call it mezcal, to be honest.
Sure.
I think that should be excluded from the designation. But at least a savvy consumer knows if it doesn't say artisanal or ancestral, then there's a good chance that, there's a definite chance that it was made by a diffuser.
Sure.
There's only 2 mezcal producers, I think, that are using diffusers anyway.
Yeah, I only know one or two. Yeah. And that's a word too that people don't necessarily understand anyway. Diffuser, I find it fascinating that you can actually do that and you can manipulate a plant's starch levels and convert them to sugars in an instant way. To me that's mad genius, even though it tastes like rubbish, right? But right. I still think that's a big opportunity too. I guess what I'm saying is that we're still crawling. We haven't even learned how to walk when it comes to mezcal terminology, and they're already getting pretty thick into ancestral production techniques.
It is. There's a lot. There's a learning curve to it that people need to get through. The diffuser thing is really something that I wish people were doing more educating about, because that has just been. I compare it to how, what's the Dr. Seuss story where the Onceler cuts down the truffula trees, right?
Oh yeah.
It's the Onceler of agave, right? You're just it's destructive.
Yeah.
It's a terrible technology.
Dude, there's I heard this story that I would imagine is true, and I won't say which billion-dollar tequila magnate actually does this, but because they know they can convert shit agave into sugar, they just buy it all and then drive prices up for people. They don't even use it necessarily. They just store it so that no one else can have it, and then that artificially drives up. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that's evil.
Yeah,
if that's true, that's evil.
Dude, and I'm pretty sure that's...
you do see the trucks leaving Oaxaca full of espadín, and that's going to go into tequila, which is supposed to be Blue Weber tequila, tequilana, and it's just too similar a plant. The temptations are there.
Yeah,
it's really powerful. Tequila industry gets what they want. Back when they introduced the NAM that did the 3 designations, they got heavy lobbying from the 2 producers who had already bought diffusers. That was their actual argument. Well, we've already bought our diffusers.
Oh, okay.
And instead of saying, well, stuff it, they're like, I guess we better give you your category.
Yeah, jeez.
Like, come on.
The power of money, man. It's the same thing.
And this is, again, why I come back to that whole point to educate the consumer. And is this what you want to drink?
Yeah.
Do you want to drink a product that is denying magueyeiros their livelihood, that is harvesting plants early, that's causing people to use fertilizers to grow agaves more quickly? Is that what you want, or do you want the real McCoy? Because if it's ancestral, or if it's, especially if it's ancestral, or if it's artisanal, you're going to get a much better product, just de facto, right?
And ancestral is a couple things. Hand mashed, right?
Yeah, there's a number of there's actually a pretty good list of 4 or 5 points that designate the category ancestral from artisanal, but the one that the consumer needs to know, really can hang their hat on, is the difference between the clay and the copper.
Yeah.
Right? And then of course the maceration. You can use a tahona in both, but in ancestral it has to be either hand macerated with mazo and quinoa, or it has to be done by tahona. Now I know one producer out in Sola de Vega, he's a hilarious guy, total rascal.
Yeah.
Could be ancestral, but uses the chipper.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Right. So that, you don't know, there's a government program where they were basically giving away these chippers to help save labor and ramp up production. Well, you got a hold of one of them. As many of them. This is like one of these secrets people don't know, but even a lot of the ancestral producers have a chipper stuffed in a shed somewhere, right? When they get tired, we're just going to run it. And you'd be hard pressed to know the difference, dude, honestly.
I think so. There has never been any real compelling A/B variable kind of testing on this is chipper, this is hand mashed. Yeah. It's all about the romance.
Right.
Vinyl always sounds better. Wait, it doesn't always sound better.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're lifting a 35-pound mazo made of a lignum vitae, and you're doing that for 8 hours a day, you need a break.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and so the chippers came along, and a lot of the guys just went over to that. I don't fault them for it.
Yeah.
So should that exclude them from the ancestral category? Probably not. They're still distilling in clay.
Right.
These are still tiny pots, right? They're pushing out 20 liters per pot, right?
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you the thing that I'm kind of at a loss for is that the the value add to consumers about the designations of the mezcal types doesn't matter right now, because they're not clearly defined. That for you and I, will get it, and we can is it clay or copper, right? We use this language very casually because we've had so much of it. But for my dad, he loves stuff and he'll taste it, and if it tastes good, he likes it. But I don't think he would ever care if it's copper or clay. And so, in a way, it was ahead of its time, these classifications.
Yeah, they were. And the other thing I will say about the DOs is it's the largest DO in the world.
Yeah.
And they probably need to break it down into state, and even within the state, if you want to be honest about it. But it should be Mezcal de Oaxaca, Mezcal de Puebla, right? Because then there's your variations in quality, right?
And flavor,
or flavor, or just simply preference, right? We don't have to qualify them.
Yeah.
But and that's what's causing a lot of internecine strife. The tension between Puebla and Oaxaca over mezcal is that hey, Oaxaca has been producing 80% of this stuff forever.
Right.
What are you guys just jumping on the bandwagon? But really, the political boundary between Oaxaca and Puebla is insignificant. You go to southern Puebla and northern Oaxaca, why should that make a difference?
Right.
Right? So it's a tough thing to parse, and that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to put it all under one roof.
Yeah.
So I think maybe something along the lines of doing state DOs would go a long way to kind of quell the flames on the arguments over DO.
And that's how whiskey works here in the States, right? There's Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's bourbon.
Yeah.
There's Virginia style.
Yeah.
Alabama style.
Right.
So
it makes perfect sense. You don't have to have this massive DO. Doesn't make any sense, right?
Well, in 12 states, maybe a little hard to kind of give them. So Michoacan has its thing for sure.
Right.
Puebla has its thing for sure. Durango has its thing. Oaxaca. So there are a few of them, I think, that really have their unique thumbprint in terms of flavor. But when you get out to some of the others, I don't even think there's any producers in Aguas Calientes yet. Is there?
I know that's the governor prevailed in his suit to to knock those guys out, at least temporarily.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
No, if you know that, yeah, a couple weeks ago, yeah,
cool.
The governor of Oaxaca sued, and to protect his producers, and was successful in at least holding that off for a little while longer.
So just that state or Morelos too?
Morelos and
Estado de Mexico.
Estado de Mexico. Yeah.
So those three is like stalled.
Yep, stalled.
Wow, it's cool.
Yeah.
The economic power of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the meeting I was telling you about. I'm still struggling to recall the name of the town, but went to that meeting where the governor flew in and basically said, "Hey, I got your back," and he did, which was great. He came through on that.
That's great. So one of the things that I feel like maybe like credibility is kind of a thing. So I know with how protective the industry is about mezcal and agave and stuff, they're like, yeah, but who are you? Right. And so people would ask me, we'll be talking about, yeah, but what do you do? There's this kind of attitude because I'm glad that we want to protect agave and mezcal for sure. I think it'll make sure that we keep some quality and some standards going on for a long time. But, you're an entrepreneur, you're a white dude, that the question may come about where it's like, well, yeah, Reed, but what have you done? Like, what makes you qualified to be representing these people in these mezcales?
Right. Yeah. Anybody could do this.
Yeah.
Anyone who's willing to put 4 years of time into this.
But see, that's the key.
Right.
You say that passively, but you put 4 years in. You are committed to less than 500 liter batches, right?
Right.
I mean, Cuentacuentos, where does this concept come?
The storyteller?
Yeah.
This comes from meeting the people who are making this, right? It comes from the idea that, here comes this gringo dropped out of nowhere walking up into my palenque. At least he's got a Mexicano with him, right? And just this complete standoffishness to, maybe this guy's going to buy a couple liters. Let's taste him out on it, and a copita into it. Everyone starts to loosen up a little bit, and then what's your story, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking to me about their family and what they do and what they've been doing forever, and I tell them where I'm coming from, and so we become these storytellers narrating our lives, and at the end, we walk away friends, right? So what's my qualification? Ask the producers I'm working with. They can tell you better than I can. If they want me to continue doing what I'm doing, absolutely. The story I like to tell about Angel Cruz Robles is, this guy gets it like right off the bat. He was like, yeah, he's got this sort of like, you see the light bulb go off. He's like, yeah, this is great. We can do this. And so he, on his birthday last year, he bought himself a pickup truck.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Like just wanted me to bring one down from the States, but he had one in mind in particular, and it's like, man, we don't have that up here, right? Yeah. He's like, oh, I found one, and he bought it for his birthday. This great pickup truck, used pickup truck. So now he can drive his mezcal down out of the mountains, do the 3.5 hour journey to town, get the testing done, deliver to my bottling facility, And so his wife catches wind of this, right? She's like, you bought a pickup truck? You're doing well, right? We've been together 14 years. We have children. Will you marry me?
Oh, they weren't married.
And so he gets on, he texts me, he's like, listen, I want to get married. Can you buy some more mezcal?
Dude.
And I was like, of course, man. Whatever you need, let's do it. So that's going to be in May. We're going down to the wedding in May, and Mexican weddings are just the best. There's just all out, celebrations of life. And so, so what qualifies me? I don't know. Ask Angel, right?
Yeah.
We're getting things done.
That's it. That's all it is you're doing it for people and not profit.
I hope so. I mean, everybody has to profit, right? Like, I don't want to overly romanticize it, right? But that piece of that's rewarding. That's why I'm in it.
Hey, dude, can you buy some more mezcal so I can get married?
Yeah,
that's a great position to be in.
Yeah,
Like, no, if he's not gonna buy more mezcal to help a guy out, This is the thing. I think 4 years is a long time because it took you, what, 3.5 at least until you were bringing stuff in? Or was it 4 years total before you?
Yeah, it's like 3.5 years to just get the first pallet up to Colorado, right? And that long to get my Spanish to a place of sufficiency where I could chat with these guys,
What were some, because I'm going to do the same thing this year. It's I've got fundamental Spanish I can kind of understand, especially when it comes to distilling. That stuff makes sense. What were some resources for you that really helped you?
Yeah, I can give you a couple books that it really just came down to 2 books for me.
Oh, really?
And one of them was called Más Fácil. It's just this really thin little, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick book that just lays out the grammar. And you can sit down with a cup of coffee or something and just learn. You can really learn the grammar in a weekend.
Cool.
I mean, there are 14 tenses, but most of them aren't used, right? There's maybe 5 or 6 that you use daily speaking. Really, it boils down to like 4. I mean, really not that much.
Yeah.
And you can learn those. And I just laid them out on a spreadsheet, and I would do that until I had it right. Did that in the weekend. Okay, so now I need to learn how to use it, and I need to learn vocabulary. So when you're an adult, this is all in reverse, right? When you're a kid, you hear it, you imitate it, you learn to assign meaning to it, and then you learn the rules. It's the reverse when you're an adult. You got to learn the rules, and then you got to learn meaning, and then it becomes automatic. You start imitating, right? This becomes this automatic thing. And so for that, I'm hiring a tutor, right? So sit down, started out twice a week, and then went to once a week, and then I haven't seen her in a long time, but I got a great tutor, a Chilean woman, and at the time didn't even speak English.
Oh wow!
So you gotta have your back against the wall if you really want to learn a language.
Sure, these are really good tools, and I think that these are things I kind of want to help for myself and help other people. So I'm gonna get the name of that book for you. I know you mentioned it, but
yeah. So the other one is a workbook, and it's just like crossword puzzles. If you sit in front of it for an hour or 2 a day, that's the thing. Most people would like to have the ability to learn a second language, but they really don't want to put the effort into learning language, right? But if you are an autodidact, if you can hold your own feet to the fire, and you dedicate 2 hours a day, and then once a week go and have that, like, everybody's afraid of making mistakes, right? Sure. So even a couple of times I was just like, listen, Nicole, let's go have a drink. Well, let's like lower the inhibitions a little bit. I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes, and you can tell me where I went wrong. And it just went like that for 3 years.
That's amazing. It's very inspirational, to be honest, man, because that's kind of where I'm at with. I'm going to be taking on some projects. I'll be down in Mexico quite a lot more,
Yeah, everybody can do it.
Yeah, I'm sure. We're not stupid guys, so that helps too, I think.
No, I mean, everybody speaks their language. Doesn't matter what your IQ is, right? There's something about the human brain that can pick up language. Now, does that become less accessible as we get older, or do we become less desirous of knowing it? Yeah. I mean, the question is whether you need it or not.
That's a good point.
So yeah, you can definitely learn it. You just gotta get to the point where you're forcing yourself to think in it, right?
Yeah.
Day-to-day activities. I want to go to my car. Where are my keys? Am I asking myself that in English, or am I doing it in Spanish?
Yeah, that's great. So you're here in Texas. You're distributed in Colorado and Montana, oddly enough, which is
yeah.
But what are the next plans? Like, you guys are in town, I think, in Austin one more night, and then you heading back to Colorado?
And then we're gonna head on down to Houston.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And almost like a little pilgrimage for me. I wanted to go see the pastry war before we left.
Of course. And you've probably got people to connect with and stuff, but there's one person I'd like you to connect with. He owns the bar upstairs from Pastry War. Justin is a really good dude. Loves mezcal. Loves it. And this is really good stuff. I think he would enjoy to be tasting on, because, again, this stuff's just fabulous, man.
Thank you.
It's one of those things. It's that you can be as kind of standoffish as you want, but once you try, you're like, okay, I get it. Well done, mate. Well done. This is great fucking stuff.
Right.
So I got one question left for you.
Yeah.
We've been sipping through this lovely mezcal last night and then this afternoon. So you're anywhere in the world, and let's say you're sipping on this Tobala on bar, and you could have a conversation with anybody, living or deceased, who would you love just to sip this and have a conversation with?
Oh, man. I still miss Christopher Hitchens.
Oh, the philosopher himself?
Yeah, the polemicist and just one of the sharpest intellects.
Yeah.
You know, whether you agree with him or not,
He was polarizing, for sure.
Yeah, polarizing for sure, but and I didn't always agree with what he had to say, but I loved how incisive he was. I'd probably have to go with Hitchens.
Oh, dude, that's wow.
And that's like when I do my little presentations, my parting shot is a quote from him, which is, "Cheap booze is a false economy."
That's absolutely fucking perfect.
Yeah.
It'd be a great person. There would be no shortage of conversation.
Right.
Yeah. And disagreements, I imagine.
Right. Absolutely. That's right.
Well, Reed, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm glad that I got introduced to the brand. I'm glad I got introduced to you. It's been just a pleasure getting to talk to you and your friends and stuff. And, you know, the best of luck with everything. And this is delicious mezcal, so I got to make sure people know, too.
Mike, thanks so much for spending so much time with me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Talk soon, yeah?
All right.
So there we have it. Reed Spear of Cuentacuentos Mezcal. Incredible stuff. I've got to know Reed better over the past year and a half since we did this interview. Can't wait to spend more time with him here. He'll be in Austin shortly as well. But it's weird how things change and then they stay the same. I'll probably see Reed in the same place that he was junketing for last year. And it's just amazing to see the progress he has and the deep passion for the category of mezcal. And a lot of those little jabs he has sometimes via text for certain organizations. So Reed, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat. And I can't wait to see what you drop next. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how many episodes of Kitchen Nightmares you're watching, or if you're thinking, man, Jason Statham, Guy Ritchie could put him in just about any movie and I would watch that, because I will watch that. Please keep dancing.